final speaker now, Chris Buffy, Assistant General Secretary of PCS and former member of the Land Registry Group himself.
Well, perhaps I'll start off with, like Roger, attempting to dispel the myth that I can go on a bit. So, mindful of the time constraints, Mick issued thanks. It bears repeating. I think we do need to record the thanks of the campaign workers in PCS, to the Land Registry Group, to all of the speakers, to the MPs that have shown support to this campaign, to every single one of you that's taken time out to attend this particular rally. And it's a rally where I think the clear message is that we reject, it's contrary to the board's view, expressed in these DVDs from the outgoing chief executive, to repeating the words of Margaret Thatcher that there is no alternative. We reject the view that there is no alternative. Of course, there is an alternative to the short-term, knee-jerk reaction of this board to current market conditions. We're here to restate the vital public sector role of the Land Registry, a department with an exemplary public service record. We're here to pose and explain the alternatives we have to the board's proposition, and we're also in the process, to pick up a point that Roger mentioned here, hopefully to spark a long overdue debate, a public scrutiny and debate of the future of land registration, not to mention the question of land ownership. And on that point, I should extend the apologies who can't be here today because of a family illness, of Kevin Carhill, the author of Who Owns Britain and one of the contributors to the alternative vision. And what stands out, actually, in any assessment of land registration, there's only really been 3 attempts in history to attempt to define who owns the land in the UK. Once with William the Conqueror, twice with the Return of Landed Owners, which was a commission into land ownership in the 19th century, which was intended to govern the purpose and statutory objects of the Land Registry, a report that never saw the light of day because it was scuppered by the House of Lords, terrified at the implications of a report that revealed such gross inequalities in land ownership in the UK. 158,000 families own 69% of the total acreage of England and Wales and Scotland. And what it also reveals is, in fact, the Land Registry has never completed its statutory purpose, which is to produce a complete and total register. There are 30%, Roger made a rather very polite reference to the people who benefit from this, but there are 30% of the acreage of England and Wales that is unregistered. That is work that needs to be carried out in the public interest, not to mention the range of other tasks and functions that would generate important work, not just for the purposes of job creation, important though that is at a time of recession, but also in meeting the wider public interest. The question of vectorisation of file plans, all the data accuracy, the question of integrating land information, which has never quite been developed, not helped by spending £4.3 million by this board on the discredited chain matrix project, but there is a very important public role of integrating the information kept by the Land Registry, by Ordnance Survey, data kept by local government, data kept by the Post Office, as a range of other public institutions. And that's information that can and should be, as part of the plan that Roger talked about, be used in the wider public interest. And that is, of course, on top of needing to ensure that the Land Registry needs to be placed as well as possible to cope to the point of when the property market may pick up. And again, John Manthorpe's report comments on the contrast between the attitude of the board the last time there was a decline in the property market in the late 80s and the early 90s, used as an opportunity to invest, to improve and expand services in readiness for the market picking up later on, which is of course exactly what it did. Now I just want to conclude very quickly by saying that we hope that all MPs supportive of our campaign, first of all, will read our material and in so doing recognise what a reasoned and objective and constructive stance that we're taking. We hope all MPs will write to the Land Registry Board and to the ministers demonstrating their support for this campaign. We hope that all the MPs will sign the early day motion. The Union will continue to take our case to the media and the wider public. But again, ultimately, it comes down to the point that John McDonnell indicated. It would be lovely to think that it was just down to the rationality and reasonableness of our argument. It would make life a lot easier. But if the board aren't prepared to listen to the reasonable case, we will need to demonstrate the support of the workforce. And this is an appeal to take the message to the members across every single office. We'll be looking to organise lobbies outside of Lincoln's Inn Fields. We may need, in the event of them ignoring our representations, to maintain and step up the campaign and possibly involving industrial action. But even at this late stage, we call on the board to reconsider their position, to listen to the representations that we have already made, to recognise that what we're proposing reconciles the interests of the workforce with a wider public interest. And in the process, this campaign can start to challenge one of the most insidious ideas promoted in the modern world, promoted by the City of London, the political elites and most of the media, who tell us that accepting the diktat of government and the employer some way makes you realistic and modern. Well, we're here to reject the fatalism and defeatism that has afflicted trade unionism for far too long, to continue to support this campaign, to force the board to listen to reasonable arguments, to defend the interests of PCS members and defend the wider interests of the public we serve. Thanks very much for listening.
Thanks very much for that, Chris. I think you just reminded us all, actually, how important PCS has been in the trade union movement, to be honest, in fighting the attacks that we've faced. And in doing things like producing the alternative vision, which other unions are simply not doing. And that's how we'll fight most effectively. We'll fight by offering an alternative through industrial action when that's necessary, but also through engaging politically. And you're here today proving how important and how successful that political engagement